Boy, this video has a couple of editing experiments in it. Let me know if you think they work or not. Anyways. For Christmas of 2023, my father managed to get me an ON30 Forney. Now, it was a little bit scuffed. The right-hand running boards had fallen off, and there was no obvious way to reattach them. Aside from that, though, this was an engine I had been wanting to get for a long time, basically since I started planning to do ON30 in the first place, and this was a full-on DCC and sound surprise underneath the Christmas tree. I didn't get many presents, but I did not need to. This one alone made my year. But like any other engine on this channel, it was only a matter of time till I gave this one a fresh coat of paint. To start, I removed the original cab. Some screws on the bottom of the locomotive held it in place, and the piece of string for the whistle and bell cords had to be cut to get it off of the body, but it didn't take much work to remove it. For a replacement, I ordered a Mount Blue Model Co. open-back Forney cab. Ironic, considering I was eyeing that Bantam Model Works cab before, but I did have a reason that I preferred the Mount Blue one. I like myself a good tender engine, and while Forneys are technically tank engines, their rear tank nature makes them look a little bit more like a 240 with four-wheel tenders than an actual tank engine. The open-back cab, however, adds just a little gap between the cab and the coal bunker, which goes a long way towards fooling the mind into thinking they're actually two separate parts of the locomotive. Now, I wish I was smart and actually recorded the painting process for this cab, but alas, past me is an idiot who never prepares these videos for when I actually have to edit them. What a moron. While you'll likely never notice it in action, I did paint the interior of the cab. I gave it a coat of Badger Model Flex Southern Sylvan Green, much like many engines of the era, and decided to paint the interior frame in Delta Ceramcoat Brown Iron Oxide. For the window frames, I pulled out my favorite color for these locomotives, Badger Model Flex Dark Tuscan Oxide Red. Now, I could have easily just done red and black on the outside of the cab, much like I've done for my other engines, but I wanted to try something a little different and decided to give the external panels a coat of Badger Model Flex Grimy Black. Now, they call it black, but it's really more of a gray, you know? And I think it looks quite classy contrasting against the black of the rest of the locomotive. I won't lie, I didn't bother with adding all the details of the cab. For my standards and its current state, it looks fine, and I really wanted to keep this project moving at the time. For the front of the locomotive, I pulled off the rest of the running boards so that I could paint them separately. While my locomotive roster generally doesn't stray from that standard black of most railroads, I do like trying to sneak in some personality in the paint job where I can, while still maintaining that sense of boiler black quote-unquote normalcy. To do this with the Forney, I decided to give the running boards a coat of the same red that I used for the highlights on the cab. At first, I was afraid it was going to look kind of strange, but I stuck the course and gave it a chance. It'll definitely be a distinct engine, but only time will tell if that was a good or a bad choice. To help highlight a little more detail, I decided to paint the piping in the same gray I used on the cab. This helps to highlight the boiler's texture, but doesn't push to grab your attention in an annoying way. And once again, past me didn't record everything that present editor me would have liked to have. At least it wasn't an entire cab assembly this time. Anyways, to clean up the engine, I added the classic white pinstripe that I have on every laminate Porcarity engine so far, which I think actually helped a lot to frame the red on the running board. It definitely drags your attention to it, but in a way that I feel complements the red, you know? And it helps to define and somewhat contain that color against the rest of the mostly black locomotive. I also added a little bit of red to the water cap, rear ladder, and pilot step. Though in this recording, I guess I hadn't done that last one just yet. The most annoying part of me failing to record certain elements of this project, though, has to be the fact that I didn't record putting on the right-hand running board. Admittedly, I don't blame myself. It took me like 2 hours of non-stop work to get it just right, fiddling around with superglue and positioning, but just because I don't blame myself doesn't mean I can't hate myself for the decision. But with that, we are done. Aside from the part where I didn't put on any decals, I'll do that in the future. I still haven't figured out what number I want this engine to be, though. You know, I'm glad my father convinced me to do 18-inch minimum radius on my layout. If I had gone sharper, I wouldn't have been able to run this, and it would have been a wasted Christmas gift from him. You should have seen the look on my face when I realized that this was the engine my father got me for Christmas. And you know what? Past me had excellent taste in locomotives. Sure, this wasn't my first engine in the end, but I'm really happy to have gotten my hands on one of these. I'm also really happy with how the paint job turned out. I was afraid it was going to be messy, but I think it's really pretty. I might have to do more engines in this style. I do still need to decal this engine and figure out what number I want for it, though. Maybe I can sneak on a nickname while I'm at it. But that's all I've got for you for today. Cheers, folks.